December turned out to be a pretty good film month, I would say, for me. This month's video will include everything from a really bad Bond movie to that movie where someone has sex with a car, the controversy that is Don't Look Up, as well as many, many more good things. I gave 4 movies 5 stars this month, which I tend to not give anything 5 stars. So it's a good film month. Stay tuned. We're gonna go through everything that I saw during December 2021. First of all, welcome to my kitchen. That's my sink right there. I live in Sweden. I mentioned this in most of my videos, but it's actually really dark. Like after 1 p.m., it's impossible to film a video if you don't have like studio lighting. My kitchen just so happens to be the only place in my apartment where I can get decent lighting. I'm gonna be dedicated to this YouTube channel. I'm gonna sit here every time I make a video if it's past 1 p.m. So everyone, say hi to my kitchen, get it over with. Let's get into the movies that I saw this month. I'm gonna be using LETTERBOXD, so I brought out my phone just so that we could go through the movies together. I will put them up on screen like I did last time. I thought that was a winning concept, man. So the first movie that I saw in December 2021, on December 3rd, I saw Last Night in Soho. And I had been super excited about this film. I don't really know much about Edgar Wright, to be honest. Oh, right, he's the one who made Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I have seen a few of his movies, actually. I liked both of those. Last Night in Soho, I was generally very excited for. I had seen the trailers. I think that the poster, oh my god, this poster, I just wanted it home. It has gotten very mixed reviews, I would say. People either love it or hate it, and I liked it a lot. In Last Night in Soho, we get to follow this young, passionate girl who's really passionate about fashion design. She comes to London to study it. Through a series of dreams, I would say, she ends up meeting this woman who is really beautiful, who is a wannabe singer, and she gets to follow her life. And it's a horror thriller mystery. It stars Anna Taylor-Joy and Matt Smith. I kind of want to give this a rewatch because now it's been a while since I saw it. I loved the colors. Like, I'm a huge fan of blue and pinks and reds. I liked the whole like fashion in the 60s, the environment, and it's one of those movies that I would like to revisit. This is something you might not know about me, but I tend to not rewatch movies very often. And already after I'd finished watching Last Night in Soho, I was excited to watch it again. That's why I gave it a high rating. It got 4 stars for me. After that, on the 4th of December, I moved on to Red Notice, and this is a Netflix movie that stars Gal Gadot, and we have Ryan, I was gonna say Ryan Gosling, but that's wrong. They do look like each other though. Ryan Reynolds and The Rock. Is this the movie of the century? No, it was breaking all sorts of records about like how many people had watched it. It was not that good. One thing that I find fascinating about Ryan Reynolds is that he just plays himself, basically. I mean, sometimes you're in the mood for that kind of character. It is a decent movie, like it was enjoyable, but it's not really worth a rewatch. I'm gonna read you the synopsis so that if you haven't seen this movie, you can make up for yourself if you want to watch it. An Interpol-issued Red Notice is a global alert to hunt and capture the world's most wanted, but when a daring heist brings together the FBI's top profiler and 2 rival criminals, there's no telling what will happen. So it's kind of like a heist movie, and that can be enjoyable. I thought that in the beginning of the movie, there were some action scenes that I really enjoyed, and I'm not really an action person, especially like there's a scene where he is on top of scaffolding. It's like falling apart and whatnot. That I thought was, I don't know, there was just something about that, the sound design and the action in that scene that I actually enjoyed. I said the same thing about Shang-Chi now that I think about it. It might just be that I really like action scenes and scaffolding. After Red Notice, I moved on to James Bond. So the thing is, I managed to go almost 30 years of my life. I am now 30. I had my birthday in September. I managed to go almost 30 years of my life without watching a single James Bond movie. So over the past like 5 months or so, I've been going through them one by one. I was gonna make some James Bond related content for this channel. Let me know in the comments if you would be interested in that. I am now currently finished with the Roger Moore movies. I did not like the Roger Moore movies as much as the Sean Connery ones, basically because they're all the same thing. Roger Moore is just so old at this point. Like in Octopussy, it came out in 1983. It's directed by John Glenn, and Roger Moore looks so old. Like, it's not believable that he's even doing most of the things that he's doing in this. Like, I just want him to go home and rest. Probably needs it. In this one, what is this saying that he did? Octopussy is the one where there's an octopus. So he is sent to investigate after a fellow 00 agent is found dead with a priceless Fabergé egg. And then Bond follows the mystery and uncovers a smuggling scandal and a Russian general who wants to provoke a new world war. So pretty much the same plot as every other Roger Moore movie. I feel like they're also just trying to cram in so many things. Like, they have to cram in a bunch of sex scenes with women who are only half willing. They have to cram in so many scenes where Roger Moore is just sort of holding onto things with his upper body. He doesn't have that much upper body strength. It's just not believable. The plot isn't really something you can follow because it has to jump from country to country. So it could be like, hey, this guy in France knows something. Suddenly they're in Paris. Okay, now it will hop to the next one. What's fun about this movie, though, is that there are two Swedes in it. Both of the Bond girls, both Magda and Octopussy herself, are Swedes. So I guess that was enjoyable. They're very attractive. Roger Moore is way too old for them in this. I gave it 2 stars. After that, on the 15th of December, was the premiere of Spider-Man No Way Home. I have given this, as you can see, 3 stars, and that means that I thought that it was enjoyable, but I feel like the story just took a big toll from all of the other stuff. If you've seen it, I know that a lot of people love this movie, and I think that it did have a lot of great things about it. I personally do not have that kind of nostalgia towards any of the Marvel characters, and I did see the Tobey Maguire movies when they came out, so it was kind of fun to get to meet all these old villains and things like that. I think that the problem for me with the movie was that they tried to cram in so many villains and so many characters that it was actually difficult to get a good story out of it. I don't like shallow characters. I don't like villains that don't actually get to be nuanced. But then there were obviously many things that I feel like the movie did very well. I thoroughly enjoyed the interactions between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. I am definitely looking forward to the Doctor Strange movie after seeing this. I think it's going to be epic. I have to say though, don't go watch it in a theater with only 16-year-olds on the premiere date. I should have picked an adult-only theater for this because it was terrible. There was squealing. I couldn't hear for the next upcoming days. Like, my ears were damaged, and that's when I realized I was becoming old. On the 17th of December, I saw a little movie called Boss Level, and that's directed by Joe Carnahan and stars Frank Grillo and Mel Gibson. Was this a great movie? I did not think so. You get to follow this retired special forces officer that is trapped in a never-ending time loop on the day of his death. It's kind of like a video game, I suppose. I guess that's the reasoning behind the title, the boss level. It's the final level in a video game. That's the sort of feeling that you get from this film. It was something that you can probably watch and enjoy if you are hungover. That's sort of when I would recommend it. I think that it had some things going for it. The cast of villains that he encounters and that he has to fight throughout the movie many times, they were enjoyable a little bit. Yeah, in the end, I gave it 2 stars because it wasn't the most enjoyable time of my life. On the 20th of December, I finally got to see The French Dispatch. I have been waiting for this movie, so I was really excited. Of course, I was a little bit late. You do what you can. This is the latest Wes Anderson movie, if you're not familiar, and you get to follow sort of these stories in a European publication. The editor of this magazine, he dies. The story is basically the 3 best stories from the last decade in a memorial edition to him, and it stars a great cast. So we have Adrian Brody, Tilda Swinton, we have Frances McDormand, Timothy Chalamet, Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, Elizabeth Moss, Edward Norton, Willem Dafoe, Saoirse Ronan, Christoph Waltz. I didn't know he was going to be in there, so I was very happily surprised by that. Yeah, I probably forgot some really great names as well. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. I really loved it so much. I want to go back and watch it over and over again. Every frame in this film was a work of art. I am a huge fan of Wes Anderson. I've seen everything that he's done. When it comes down to it, I have trouble deciding which is my favorite Wes Anderson movie, but this is far up there. I thought that there were aspects of this film that gave me something that was still Wes Anderson, but I wasn't expecting it. He mixed like different forms of media. So there was animation, there was black and white footage. He used different scopes like on the image. This is such a work of art. It has poetry. My favorite chapter is probably the one with the food, but I really also enjoyed the art one with where Adrian Brody was an art dealer and the artist that was in prison. I can highly recommend it. I'm gonna watch this again soon for sure. On the 21st of December, I was on this like French Dispatch high. I ended up watching another 5-star movie for me, and that was Tick Tick Boom. This is also a 2021 movie directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I have not seen Hamilton. I know that he's in there. I saw him briefly in The Heights. I did not like that musical very much. I am a big musical fan. I love musicals. There's just something about music that also makes me cry, and I tend to give 5 stars to movies that make me feel stuff. Tick Tick Boom was not an exception. I tend to, when I think about a musical, imagine grandeur like Moulin Rouge or these old Hollywood musicals. Like, that's part of why I like them. Tick Tick Boom does not have any of that. Like, the coloring is kind of bland, but that doesn't matter because I felt so many things, and I think that for me this was the perfect movie just because I just turned 30 and we've had a pandemic going on, and I have been struggling a lot with finding my place in the world and figuring out who I am, and also knowing what I want to do and fighting towards that. And this movie is basically that. That's the main message, and I cried a lot. Basically, if you don't know what Tick Tick Boom is, it is a movie starring Andrew Garfield. It's a musical. It follows the guy who made Rent. So this is his musical. On the cusp of his 30th birthday, a promising young theater composer navigates love, friendship, and the pressures to create something great before time runs out. The guy who made Rent, the musical Rent, he has sadly passed away, so he didn't actually get to see Rent realized. And this was one of the musicals that he wrote as he was sort of dealing with the aftermath of his first ever musical that didn't really do super well. It's just really great. I will also revisit this soon, I think. After that, on the 22nd of December, I decided to visit one of Stanley Kubrick's movies, Eyes Wide Shut. I love Nicole Kidman, and I was just interested in seeing something that she was in. I had not seen this before. It stars her and Tom Cruise, who was her husband at the time, and then obviously Stanley Kubrick is the director. I struggle with him as a person because I know he was so mean, and I don't think this movie was any exception. Basically, the synopsis is, after Dr. Bill Harford's wife, Alice, admits to having sexual fantasies about a man she met, Bill becomes obsessed with having a sexual encounter. He discovers an underground sexual group and attends one of their meetings, and quickly discovers that he is in over his head. I got a little bit triggered by a bunch of it. I don't know, there's something about cheating that just makes me feel so uncomfortable. But then I stayed up many hours into the night just thinking about it, so I originally gave it like 3 stars and then had to raise it to 4 just because I realized that it did have an impact on me. I'm probably going to remember this movie for a long time to come. I think that you'd have to watch it for yourself to form your opinion, but it's one of those movies that a lot of people like. It's a classic, so can recommend it. On the 23rd of December, I finished Hawkeye, and since this is a Letterboxd wrap-up, they have Hawkeye on there. It's a mini-series, and sometimes they do that, so I added it to my list. Hawkeye is a mini-series on Disney Plus, an MCU thing where we get to follow Hawkeye. I've been thinking about this. WandaVision I loved because I didn't care for the characters Wanda or Vision before I saw the show, and then I just suddenly got so invested in their lives and them, their personalities, and these characters that now I really like them, and I was hoping that maybe Hawkeye would be similarly done for me. Hawkeye is a very boring character. I perceive him to be a very boring character, so sort of hoping that this series would be the redemption for him. Do I think that he came out on the other end as a more fun character? No, I wouldn't say so. I think that his co-star, played by Haley Steinfeld, Kate Bishop, the character, I'm like really looking forward to seeing what the MCU will do with her in the future because she was so much fun. I think that the show introduced some cool villains that we all know of and that we've seen in the past. I was so excited about Florence Pugh. She's by far one of my favorite actresses. So all in all, I would say I enjoyed Hawkeye. The only thing it didn't succeed with was make me excited about Hawkeye. But I just don't think that he's the type of character that I would get excited about. They made fun of that aspect so many times in the show, and it was good for some Christmas and holiday feelings. So I gave it 4 stars. I guess I was a little bit generous. I would probably take that down to 3.5 maybe now, but I was excited about it once it had ended. Also on the 23rd of December, I decided to watch another classic that I hadn't seen, and this one is from the 80s, 1987 Lethal Weapon. I didn't know that line, "I'm too old for this shit came from this movie. I think that the story of Lethal Weapon, like I can understand how when it came out it gained some cultural status, like it did have like fun interactions between the character that Mel Gibson plays and Danny Glover. I'm looking forward to also watching I think that there are more of them, right? There's at least 2 more. There's a 2 and a 3, I believe, and I have seen the famous toilet scene with Danny Glover's on the toilet and there's some sort of bomb. I think that's from the 2nd or the 3rd one. Here, I actually found it a little bit tricky to follow the plot. Let me know in the comments if you also felt that way about Lethal Weapon, or it might just be me. I felt like the story could have improved a lot and I was a little bit disappointed because I heard so many things about Lethal Weapon, but it was still very enjoyable. I will continue with the series. I gave it 3 stars. For those of you who do not know what Lethal Weapon is about, you get to follow these 2 cops. They basically become partners. The movie starts with a woman committing suicide and she jumps off a building and then they are sort of sent there to investigate. There's also this added element of Mel Gibson being a reckless person because his family has passed away. Let me know in the comments if you think the series gets better or if this was the height of it, because I'm interested to know. On the 25th of December, on Christmas Day, I watched Don't Look Up. I thought it was enjoyable. Everyone had said it was so bad that I didn't go into it with any expectations. What I liked about it was that most of these famous actors were sort of acting in a way that I wasn't expecting them to. Like, it's nice seeing Leonardo DiCaprio play this nerdy man for a change. So Don't Look Up is directed by Adam McKay, came out on the 24th of December on Netflix, so if you want to check it out, it's on there. It is a comedy. It's a drama science fiction comedy. 2 low-level astronomers, upon discovering that a meteor will strike the Earth in 6 months, go on a media tour to try to warn the world, but find an unreceptive and unbelieving populace. Obviously, there are a lot of parallels that can be drawn to our current situation in the world with the global warming and the environment. I don't understand why people haven't been liking it. Like, when I read people's reviews, I guess they didn't find it funny. I can't quite understand it or put my finger on why people are so upset with it. Maybe if you are one of those people, you can inform me and we can have a discussion, because I would definitely like to know. I went into it and actually enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. You get to see Jennifer Lawrence, Leonardo DiCaprio, Meryl Streep. I really liked Meryl Streep's character. I need to get me some of those glasses, man. Rob Morgan, Jonah Hill, Cate Blanchett. It took me so long to realize that it was Cate Blanchett in this movie. I don't know why. We get to see Timothée Chalamet, Ron Perlman, Ariana Grande is in there. Watch it if you want to. It's a mixed bag. If you watch it, at least you'll be able to know if you're in the it was okay camp or if you're in the I hated it camp. On the 26th of December, I decided to watch Rear Window, and yet another classic that I hadn't seen before. Generally, I love Alfred Hitchcock movies. They are the kind of movies that hold up still. This one was made in 1954, and I didn't want to pick up my phone and look at other stuff a single time. The fact that Grace Kelly was in this and she was so beautiful, it really helped. We get to follow this guy who is played by James Stewart. He has broken his legs in an accident. He is the kind of person who takes photographs of war scenes and things like that. That's what I assume, but then here it says that he is a professional photographer that breaks his leg while getting an action shot at an auto race. I didn't actually understand that from the movie, but he's confined to his New York apartment and spends his time sort of looking at his neighbors. I do this all the time. There is a building right across from me and I can't stop looking into all these apartment buildings, seeing what people are up to. I'm a complete sneaky person. He's doing sort of this because he doesn't have anything else to do, and then he believes that he witnesses a murder and takes help from his nosy girlfriend who's like a socialite, very fashionable, that is played by Grace Kelly, and his, I don't know what she is. I feel like she's a nurse that comes to take care of him, maybe, to see what they can do about the situation. I think that this is a great movie. Like, I loved it. I definitely want to revisit it. I think that the cinematography is great, and I was struck by just the fact that older movies, they allowed storytelling to take time. They told story through longer shots. I think that what this movie did really well was that he didn't have to actually explicitly say, oh, I hurt my legs because I'm a photographer. You could tell all of those things just by the first scene where Hitchcock just sweeps through his entire apartment and you see all the things that are there. It was very easy to piece those things together. together. So I think this story is masterfully told, and I can recommend it if you're up for an older classic, but you haven't seen many of those. Any Hitchcock movie is pretty much good to go. This one is especially good because it has color, and Grace Kelly, she's just so gorgeous. On the 28th of December, I saw Titan. I don't know how to say it. I feel like it's since it's a French thing, I've started to study French on Duolingo. Titan? I don't know. Correct me in the comments. Following a series of unexplained crimes, a former firefighter is reunited with his son who has been missing for 10 years. That is the little blurb. It's directed by Julia Ducournau. I haven't seen Raw that she directed. This won the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year, or last year. And I thought that this film had a lot of things that I liked reflecting over. I especially loved the way that the story was told. I loved how she played with gender. It was a story about love. How can you not like that? There's also car sex, and it's all people are talking about. It's surprisingly well told. You don't really care about the fact that it's weird. Like, you just sort of get what she's trying to say. Anyway, there's body horror in this movie, and I thought that aspect was a little bit difficult for me. I generally like gore, but in this movie there were scenes where I definitely had to hide behind my hand, like I did this a lot. It was very graphic in a way that I just hadn't expected. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I also have to add that I have been trying to drink coffee lately, and I'm very terrible with caffeine, so I was very jittery this day. I was thinking that if I drink it over and over again, then maybe I would just get used to it, but so far, no. And the combination of my coffee and this movie, they didn't really mesh well together. I can't recommend you watch this with a super anxious body. I gave it 3.5 stars. On the 31st of December, I don't think I've talked about this on this channel, but I always have a tradition. I watch When Harry Met Sally, and I've done this for many, many years now. I might have skipped like a year or so every once in a while. I don't think I saw it last year, but I do tend to get up early and watch this movie because it's one of my favorites. I love it so much. This is literally the only movie that I rewatch frequently, and I always do it on New Year's Eve. It's a classic. It stars Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan and Carrie Fisher. It's directed by Rob Reiner and written by Nora Ephron. You probably know of some of the famous scenes from this movie, like the scene where she fakes an orgasm in the middle of a diner, or the scene at the end where he holds that famous speech. There's just something about this movie that gives me such good and happy feelings, and I love ending my year that way. So usually this is the last thing I see every year, but this year it wasn't. I managed to squeeze in one more movie, which I didn't expect. I was happily surprised. I just had some extra time on New Year's Eve. Malignant, directed by James Wan. I didn't know what to expect. Not a fan of horror movies, really. This is a mystery thriller horror. It's a Warner Bros. Pictures movie. I think I saw it on HBO Max. There were many things that I thought were really bad about this film. What I can see from when I look at like the reviews of my friends, people have been giving it either like an enjoyable and a solid rating, or they've hated it. It's yet another one of those films that is dividing the people here. It was definitely not my thing originally. I did not like it. Basically what happens in this movie is that this woman, her name is Madison, and she's paralyzed by shocking visions of grisly murders, and her torment worsens as she discovers that these waking dreams are in fact terrifying realities. In the beginning of the movie, she suffers a miscarriage, and I was really annoyed when her baby bump just went away. That's not how the female body works, just so you guys know. There should have been so many people that were working on this film that should have been able to be like, hey, this is not very believable. But I guess that's one of the common misconceptions about the female body, and it doesn't make sense because how many women throughout our world don't actually give birth? There are so many of them. So it shouldn't have to be like this. And there were plenty of details like that where I was just feeling like it's not believable. I'm not enjoying this film. Then towards the ending, I don't actually know what happened. There was some really cool action scenes there, and then I started to love it. So I felt like I was taken on a roller coaster ride of emotions where I hated it for the most part, and then there was some really cool stuff towards the end. I think that if you've seen this, you know that it's kind of one of a kind. Like, I wasn't really expecting what happened to happen, and it was just wacky and weird. I gave it 3 stars. It made me feel so many
many things, and it was enjoyable, so.
And that, my friends, that was everything that I saw in the month of December. I am very happy to be back on this YouTube channel. I am gonna do my best to keep it up this year. I have been trying with the best of my abilities to actually get this going and to work really hard on it. I have a tendency of making things very complicated. I have, for example, been working on an Elizabeth Taylor video for a year now. I'm gonna just post that soon because it took a lot of research. I just got a little bit carried away. If there's any content you would like me to post on this channel ahead, please let me know in the comments. Also, I'm kind of on a movie high right now, so if there's anything you would like me to watch in the month of January, because I'm gonna be doing one of these videos for January as well, post it and give me some stuff for my watch list. Don't forget to, if you liked this video, subscribe, like the video, comment, have a chat with me. I would really like that. And then hopefully I will see you very soon. Bye!